Hello boys and girls, today we're going to read a story called
The Littlest Watchman.
And the Bible doesn't tell us anything about a little watchman, but the promises in this story are right throughout the entire Bible. So let's read it together and find out all about it. Have you ever had to wait for a special gift? Maybe right now there's a beautifully wrapped present sitting under your Christmas tree, almost calling out to you with the promise of something wonderful inside. Long ago, God's people found themselves waiting for something wonderful as well. They were waiting for a promise to come true. They were waiting and watching. One night on a quiet hillside, a little boy sat beside an old tree stump, watching and waiting. His name was Benjamin, and he was a watchman. Being a watchman was a pretty big job. Benjamin did his best to take it seriously, but the problem was that his main duty was to sit still and stare at a boring old tree stump, which made it kind of hard to stay interested. Even so, he knew that the people in his village counted on him. Benjamin's father was also a watchman and taught him all about it.
You want me to stare at a tree stump?
Benjamin had asked when he first learned of the watch. It's not about staring, son, it's about waiting, his father answered. Every day and every night one of us is watching. We watch for the sign of the arrival of the king, just like our Maker promised. The Maker told people to wait for his king and to trust in his promise that he would send a king who would rescue and restore the whole world. The watchmen did trust, and they did their best to help others to trust. They reminded the people about what their Maker had said hundreds of years before.
There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his root shall bear fruit.
Even though the Maker had been awfully quiet for many years now, the watchmen still trusted his promise and kept a close lookout for the arrival of the promised king. Benjamin wanted to be a good watchman, but he found it difficult. For one thing, it had all become really boring. He tried to focus, but it only took a little bug or a hoot of an owl to make him completely lose track of where he was. Besides that, Benjamin struggled because everyone laughed at him. It was all very distracting. Then there were the shepherds. They often walked past him on their way to the fields. Most nights Benjamin could hear them laughing and having a good time as they roamed the neighbouring hills.
They have all the fun,
Benjamin often thought.
I wish I could have been a shepherd instead of a watchman.
Night after night Benjamin kept watch, hoping that the long-awaited shoot would appear on the stump, but it never did. Nothing ever happened. One day it became even harder for Benjamin to focus. The road below became very busy. Travellers started pouring past on the way to the village. There were people of all sorts, men and women, young and old, some on carts with donkeys, others walking. Benjamin even noticed a man helping a very pregnant woman slowly making her way along the road. Along with all these distractions, something deeper started to trouble Benjamin. He had always believed the Maker would send the promised king, but he couldn't help but wonder what was taking so long. Benjamin had waited a long time, and he wasn't sure if he could do it anymore. He took his eyes off the stump. Shoulders slumping, Benjamin looked towards the shepherd's hill.
Maybe I should just go and become a shepherd,
he thought.
It seems I'm not cut out to be a watchman after all.
But as he gazed towards the shepherds, Benjamin's eyes squinted and then widened. The shepherds were not alone. In the sky above them, a single light shone down. Suddenly, a glorious brightness lit up the night sky over the shepherds. Shading his eyes, Benjamin could see a host of dotted lights within a larger glow. He couldn't make out the words, but he could hear the lights were singing, joyously singing. Benjamin sat spellbound as he took in the light and the melody. It was so beautiful, he never wanted it to end, and yet something drew his attention back to the old stump. Benjamin's eyes had been trained to know every detail of the stump. It never changed, it had always been the same. It wasn't now. Growing out of the hardened wood on the top of the stump was a small green shoot. A great flood of joy filled Benjamin as he remembered the Maker's promise.
There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his root shall bear fruit.
Quick as he could, Benjamin jumped up and ran towards the village down into Bethlehem, barely able to contain his excitement as he darted along the dark path. As he reached the edge of the sleeping houses, the words burst out of his mouth in a great shout.
He's here, the king has come.
Just then, the door of a small building swung open and light from the inside spilled out into the street, and Benjamin heard a familiar voice, the voice of one of the shepherds. Yes, the king has come. Would you like to come in and meet him? Boys and girls, I hope that you enjoyed the story. Boys, did you enjoy the story?
Yeah.
You know, the watchmen in this story were not real, but the events Benjamin saw on the shepherd's hillside were. We call it Christmas. At Christmas, we remember that Jesus was born so that he could live, die and rise again to keep God's promises to rescue us. We remember that he went back to heaven and sat on the throne as the king he is. But before Jesus went, he said, I will come again. And King Jesus has promised that he is coming back for us. People who trust God today spend their lives waiting and watching for him to keep his promise. We wait and watch by remembering what Benjamin learnt. God always keeps his promises. One day this world will see Jesus returning. Let's trust God so deeply that we look for him with excitement every single day. Bye everyone.
Bye.